So we'll do a Majjhima Nikaya 15 today, in terms of our little sutta study, and that sutta, it's called Anumana Sutta, or evaluation, how it's translated. And so it's about when Venerable Mahamoggallana was staying near the land of Bhagas at Crocodile Hill in the Deer Park. So he was talking to the bhikkhus about the nature of admonishment and how some bhikkhus might be hard to admonish and having qualities that keep him that way. So then he explained on those qualities, and then obviously continued in talking of how to abandon them. And so the sutta goes, suppose a bhikkhu invites other bhikkhus to admonish him, but he's hard to admonish, having qualities that make him hard to admonish. He's not forbearing, does not take instructions respectfully. So his spiritual companions don't think it's worth advising or instructing him, and they don't regard him as trustworthy. What are the qualities that make him hard to admonish? Firstly, a bhikkhu has evil wishes. Having fallen under the sway of evil wishes, this is the quality that makes him difficult to admonish. So evil wishes. Then bhikkhu glorifies himself, puts others down. Or he's prone to anger, overcome by anger. He's prone to anger, resentful due to anger. He's stubborn due to anger, blurts out words bordering on anger. He objects the accuser when he's accused. When accused, he rebukes the accuser. When accused, he retorts to the accuser. When accused, he dodges the issue, distracts the discussion with irrelevant points, gets flustered, and displays hate and bitterness. When accused, he's unable to account for the evidence. He denigrates and is contentious. He's jealous and stingy, devious, deceitful, stubborn, and arrogant. That all obviously results in then that furthermore that bhikkhu is attached to his own views, holding them tight, refusing to let go. That too is the quality that makes him difficult to admonish. The reason why I wanted to do this sutta is basically you could simply replace when the Mahamoggallana talks about admonishment, you just replace the word admonish with disagreed with. So suppose a bhikkhu basically encounters, or well, if we replace admonish with disagree with, then you realize that this whole sutta can apply to anyone. It's not just for the bhikkhus and in terms of their vinaya, admonishment and similar. It's basically whenever somebody disagrees with you, do you have the qualities that make it hard for you to stay rational, to not lose perspective? So suppose a bhikkhu invites other bhikkhus to disagree with him, to find the points of disagreement. He's hard to disagree with, having qualities that make him so. And so from that point of view, you can then include yourself in this in this practice, and simply start re-evaluating your own mindsets when you experience disagreements in the world. Take yourself, for example, and just see like whether when you experience disagreement, when somebody disagrees with you on the level of your views, on the level of how things should be done and similar, do you find that experience in and of itself uncomfortable? Are you resisting it? If so, you then partake in the qualities that are making you hard to admonish. So the point here is that it's not even that you necessarily need to be in the wrong. Like these bhikkhus, like in this instance, they might be mistakenly admonishing this bhikkhu. They might be the ones who are factually wrong. But the point is, it's not about that. It's about whether you, from your individual point of view, when experiencing the experience of admonishment or disagreement, are you affected by that, regardless of whether that admonishment is right or wrong? So are you resisting that experience? Are you not forbearing? Do you not take what was said respectfully? In other words, are you losing perspective and giving in to anger? And that's exactly what the sutta then goes on to describe. So see, like, what are the qualities that make you hard to disagree with? So evil wishes. In other words, do you have desires that are rooted in greed, aversion, distraction? If you're still partaking in those desires, to the extent you're partaking in them, you will be under that sway of evil wishes. So it's not like the most coarse, unwholesome, evil, horrible wishes. No, anything rooted in greed, aversion, delusion, it's partaking in Mara, it's partaking in evil, so to speak. So for as long as you do have such wishes, that's already one quality. They will make you resist the experience of admonishment. They will make you have ill will towards it. They will make you basically difficult to disagree with. The second then example is bhikkhu glorifies himself and puts others down. Again, you could take this in this obviously like a very like a caricature manner, like some absolutely fully full of himself conceited person, but the same principle remains even on the subtler levels, such as, again, do you just value your views and opinions because they're yours? Simply for that reason you put them first. And because if there is a form of disagreement encountered, your first response is to put the other person down, not to hear what they have to say. And that's exactly what leads to next. He's prone to anger, overcome by anger. So you just review your mind. Like you can think this doesn't apply to me, for example. You can say, oh no, this doesn't apply to me. I don't have evil wishes. But then, okay, well, do you have any wishes rooted in sensuality? If the answer is yes, then you do have evil wishes. Then you can say, well, I don't get angry. I'm not prone to anger. Okay, sure. Overall, you might not be an angry person, but when you experience disagreement, are you irritated? When somebody says the displeasing words to you, whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. We're simply talking about being subjected to that type of experience. And if so, then are you prone to irritation? Are you resentful due to anger? Are you stubborn? In other words, do you then just double down in your points regardless of what's presented as a counter argument and so on? Do you blurt out words? So you can review all these things and see, has it happened? How often has it happened? And so on. If so, means you still partake in that domain. And then it goes further. So it's like when accused. So when disagreed with, do you object the person that disagreed with you? Do you rebuke the person that accused you? Do you retort to them? In other words, do you look past the fact that there is a point they're making against you and attacking them ad hominem instead? So when accused, he doesn't look at the accusation and then present the counter argument and so on. No, he objects the person that accused him. When rebuked, when accused, he rebukes, how dare you accuse me, or who do you think you are, and so on. Or he retorts to the accuser. Either way, he does not address the accusation. And see, that's the point. Like, even if the accusation is wrong, you are in wrong as well if you are if you don't have perspective in regard to it, and you won't have perspective in regard to it if you're resisting the discomfort of it. And you would be resisting the discomfort of it if you are still under the evil wishes, if you still give in to anger, if you have not purified your virtue and tamed your mind on account of it. So all these ad hominem attacks would be pretty much self-defense mechanisms that might not even be necessary, because you still might be in the right. Like, the accusation might be wrong, you might be right, but the fact is that you have a face of the accuser as the most important. The image of the accuser is associated for you with the accusation. So that's why even your response to that is irrational. It's not on the level of the context that matters, and it's passing the point of addressing the accusation and going after the accuser. And that in and of itself makes you wrong. Obviously, like, both parties can be partaking in the same. This applies to anyone, really. The one that's accusing or the accuser, the one that's disagreeing with or the disagreed with. Like, if you are honest, you need to reevaluate your own mind. And simply, as I said, not look for the instances when you were accused and how you act. Just overall. Do I have wishes of sense desires? Do I act out of irritation in regard to this and that? Do I get ill will? Do I get upset? Do I give in to anger? Is my behavior purified? Are my senses tamed? If not, you are partaking in this. Even if you would have learned a perfect way of psychotherapeutical management of your expression and always speaking softly and everything else, you are still doing that out of ill will. You're doing that out of resent, out of stubbornness. You're doing that aimed at the accuser. In other words, you cannot have the right perspective, no matter how hard you try, because all these things are covering it up and distorting it. So if then that person is not, the sutta goes on, says, if accused, he dodges the issue, distracts the discussion with irrelevant points, gets flustered, displays hate or bitterness. Again, just you can simply look at it. It's like, okay, even if you're not engaging with the ad hominem attacks, you ask yourself, are you, first and foremost, do you immediately go on a defensive mode when there is a disagreement presented at you? That's already irrational. Like, you have no reason to go on a defensive. You have no reason to immediately feel the pressure of defense. You will feel it for as long as you're not free from desires, for as long as you're not free from ill will to a greater degree. Because it's the discomfort of that experience that you resist, which then projected either on the accuser or avoiding the issue, or either way, you're going to be wiggling left and right, basically trying to avoid, to address it, because that would kind of make it basically, well, make you feel the full weight of it. But the catch there is that the more you resist it, the more unpleasant it is. So if you were to stop resisting by default the disagreements, the admonishment, being told off or being pointed as wrong, or maybe questioned even, the less frightening it will be to face that. But as I said, you can't just decide to start doing that rightly, despite of psychotherapy tries to teach you and so on, and modern skillful communication management. You can only start doing it rightly by removing the unsuitable qualities that the sutta describes, which is the qualities of evil wishes, if wishes rooted in unwholesome things. Is your mind still gripped with desire, with lust, with ill will, with malice, and so on? Then it's like, oh, by addressing those things, that's how you then get to face the criticism or face the admonishment, and not automatically, tighten up and need to retort, need to find the way out, need to question the accuser, rebuke him, retort, or distract, just start throwing million of other points that you will not address the original point made against you, for as long as all these other points that you now brought up on top of it are not addressed as well first, because it's important. It's just basically, like a lawyer just throwing out technicalities of the law to mask the fact that he knows his client's wrong, and he just tries to drag it on until everything gets bogged down in details taken out of context, and that's how he sets him free. So people do that when, again, so they might not be attacking somebody personally, but they still refuse to acknowledge the admonishment, to acknowledge the disagreement, to see it for what it is, and then present their counter argument. Because if you were truly, and the reason why people don't want to do that is because they're not used to clarifying their own thinking with that, as I said, with that rational reflection of, okay, my view is such, I hold that this is right and that's wrong. Why? So start questioning yourself already. So by the time you encounter disagreement in the world and other people questioning you, you would have already done that so many times, and your views would have been fortified, not through like skilled avoidance and so on. No, they would have been freed from contradictions, because if you start questioning yourself rightly, you will not have a problem in abandoning your views if you discover discrepancies in it. If you find that it's contradictory, if you find that it's incomplete, you won't be as shocked to find that out if somebody else points it out, because you would have done that beforehand already. And that's already the practice of reviewing your behavior. Like, are you acting out of anger? Are you acting out of ill will? Not just to kind of wallow in that, yes, I'm a bad person. So no, just so that next time when these things present, when these choices of acting out of evil wishes or desires or anger or arrogance, when those choices are presented, I can actually see them, as opposed to only in hindsight discover that, oh yeah, I chose that and did that and said that. And that takes like persistent reflection. You need to reflect and invest effort into like dig this thing up, so to recognize them, so to then be able to not choose them when the pressure is put on you. So if a person has already done that privately, when they encounter admonishment, disagreement, right or wrong, doesn't matter, they will have no problem in seeing it for what it is. And if it's correct, it's like, oh yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I didn't think about that. If it's wrong, again, they won't gloat or feel superior on account of it. They just say, no, you're mistaken because of this, this, and this. So your argument doesn't add up, not mine. And that's exactly what he carries on. The sutta says, so he's attached to his own views. Before that, yes. So he dodges the issue. He's unable to account for the evidence. And then he denigrates, he's contentious, he's jealous, stingy, devious, deceitful, stubborn, and arrogant. And then because he's attached to his own views, holding them tight and refusing to let go. So these are the qualities that make him hard to admonish. In other words, these are the qualities that it will make him unable to accept any form of, to accept the experience of disagreement without being affected by it. Let's put it that way. So whether disagreement or admonishment is right or wrong, doesn't matter. He will first and foremost be affected by it, emotionally, mentally. Even if he has a perfect management of coping, never says the wrong thing, internally, first and foremost, he will be affected by it. And that's a problem. For somebody who wants to practice, somebody who wants to calm their mind and become accomplished in Dhamma, any form of being affected by experience is work to do, is something that needs to be abandoned. So then the Buddha goes, the Mahamoggallana goes and talks about what are the qualities that make him easy to admonish, and then it's the opposite. So he doesn't he doesn't have evil wishes, he's not attached to his own views, and so on. So in such case, a bhikkhu should evaluate himself. Oh, this person has evil wishes. He's fallen under the sway of these wishes. And I should not like, I do not like or approve of that person. And if I were to fall under the sway of evil wishes, others wouldn't like and approve of me. In other words, an impartial observer can always see in an argument, like, who is the irrational one. Even if not necessarily wrong, if somebody is truly impartial, they can see, oh, this person is affected by this. They're not making sense. They're going ad hominem attacking or whatever. So then the sutta carries on that a bhikkhu should evaluate himself in this way in regard to the evil wishes, anger, malice, arrogance. Is he resorting to ad hominem attacks? Is he dodging the issue, and so on? So then it says that the sutta carries on saying that suppose upon reflection bhikkhu recognizes these things in him, these unwholesome qualities that need to be abandoned, and he should make an effort to give them up. So see, that's another important point here. It's not like, then he should practice this technique and do that, or counter it with this experience and focus on that. No, he needs to evaluate his mind, his experience, his past actions, past choices, recent or doesn't matter how recent or not. He needs to determine that there are still these unfavorable qualities in him, or that he's prone to them, or that he could engage with them, and then abandon that through recognition. Recognize if there is not enough negative value attached to these unwholesome qualities. Through reflection, through repeated reflection, when those qualities present themselves, you still act out of them, you still choose them. But if you, before they present themselves, you reflect frequently and you are putting a negative value on those qualities, when they present themselves, that value will be your mindfulness. That negative value will be your container from preventing you to automatically just blurt things out or act or choose this or that's unwholesome. Again, that's why the Buddha talked about, like, sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing are the guardians of the world. So these are like, sense of shame is basically a negative value attached to certain types of behavior that result in shame. So having sense of shame means that value protects you from going down the path of those behaviors. Ignoring the sense of shame means going down the paths of those behavior. So you don't actually need to be constantly sort of dwelling in a sense of shame. You just need to have that on the level of the value, that these things are bad. I understood that. I reflected frequently upon it. So now that negative value is attached to them. So when I'm mindless, distracted, and suddenly desires present themselves, or ill will, it will come with that negative value that I've been cultivating in regard to it. And that's how sense restraint starts bearing fruit. You can be mindlessly restrained and keep all the precepts and some, and not give in to anything, but not allow that the weight of those choices to come down to like on that level of intention. So you need to recognize that the precepts and saying no to certain things and so on needs to be accompanied with a whole like a frequent reflection on the level of values, whereby I'm not just not doing this or that thing because some authority said so. I'm doing it because it's wrong and it's for my harm, how the sutta said. But I don't see that harm. I don't see why it's wrong. Exactly. So now you need to do the work. And while still not doing it, you need to reflect and dig deeper and recollect and bring back the harm and discern it layer by layer by layer. And then, a year or so later, or longer, depending on how diligent you were, you won't have to think about it. When the desire to do such and such things presents itself, comes with implication of harm. So it might feel like you need to fabricate the harm initially, and it's true for some people, but that's because it will work, because there is effectual harm in those things that's obscured. So if sensuality were truly not harmful, no amount of you fabricating harm and values of harm in regard to it would make it imply harm when it presents itself. But it is actually harmful. That's the part that's not seen. So then if you dwell and frequently reflect upon that, it will become part of sensuality, that harm that's now seen. That's how what the suttas mean when they say the danger becomes apparent. The danger that was always implicit wasn't apparent before. Now through withdrawal, frequent reflection upon it, trying to discern it, trying to see more of it when it's there, now it's apparent. Now it's effortless to see it. So that's how the monk says, because when the suttas say, he just abandons these qualities, you think, so what? How? I mean, why didn't the Buddha say more? How do you abandon those qualities? Do you do this or do you do that? Do you practice concentration? Do you practice that? I don't know. No, it's just he recognizes them. He detects them for what they are. He sees harm in them. He attaches that negative value to them through his own effort, through his own frequent recollection, reflection, and so on. So then when those things come up again on their own, they come with that. So it becomes effortless to say no to them eventually, not without a proper amount of work. So that's how you simply abandon them. You realize the work is on the level of reshaping the value of acting out of sensuality, ill will, distraction. If you would have internally reshaped long enough, properly, thoroughly, through prior sense restraint and guarding of the sense doors and taming of the mind, it results in everything that follows. It results in taming of the senses, it results in calmness, it results in jhana, it results in liberation. So there is no other work. That's why in the other Majjhima Nikaya Sutta, the similar the chariot that we did, says purification of behavior leads to purification of the mind, that leads to purification of the views, that then leads to joy and liberation and so on. So there's nothing else there. There's not like that the Buddha omitted some crucial parts of the practice that only in contemporary Buddhism and commentaries we find all these techniques and so on, and it's like it doesn't exist because there is no room for it. It's unnecessary. Like if you address the root problem, which is you willingly choosing these unskillful qualities that then make you irrational, make you resist any discomfort of disagreement, discrepancy and so on, if you willingly stop choosing that, your views will be purified. You will not be obstinately acting out of those things, and you will not continue to be affected by the disagreements or discrepancy. Because see, like self-evaluating is already your own attitude of looking for disagreement with yourself. So that's already the practice. Reviewing your behavior, is there anything that shouldn't be there? From obviously the value, the standpoint of somebody who wants to practice the Dhamma. And so disagreement is good. Discrimination is good. Done on that right level, you discriminate against good behavior and bad behavior. And that's exactly how you bring yourself in line. And if you're not doing it on that personal level, that's why it's so uncomfortable when you encounter it coming at you externally. As I said, even if it's completely wrong, like somebody can have some ridiculous argument, whatever, against your view, and you will still be affected by it first and foremost on that personal level. from a person who did that. Although you even have the correct, so to speak, argument against it, they would show that no, they're the irrational one, they're the contradictory, their argument is contradictory, yours isn't. But the fact is that on a personal level, you're affected by the experience of it. To that extent, that is your wrongdoing. That should not be happening either. So that's, of course, it's not going to be overnight. Like these layers of irrationality and emotional response to the discomfort, it's not going to be solved just in a magical finger snap. But you need to recognize that for as long as there is a degree of that mental resistance towards such experience of admonishment, being rebuked, being disagreed with, being pointed out, things that you don't necessarily want to hear and so on, it's like there is absolutely no reason to be any resistance towards it. And if there is no resistance towards it, then as I said, you will have no problem because you would not lose perspective. So you would immediately see through whatever's presented at you. It's like, oh yeah, I did not consider that. Thank you. So you're easy to admonish, and then other people would be willing. And see, like, say if somebody who also practices Dhamma, who is actually maybe developed even more than you are in taming the mind and so on, points things at you from their better standpoint, from their greater development of their mind, and you are not irrationally resisting it, they'll do it again. And that's for your benefit, factually. That's what this sutta specifically talks about. But as I said, you can apply that in much broader sense. And even if they're not speaking for your welfare, they're just criticizing you mindlessly, you can use that to see, oh, but am I affected by that, first and foremost? Regardless of like how ridiculous their argument might be and so on, or whether you are right or wrong, it's just, is this experience in and of itself affecting me? Like, do I feel like a little, at least, twitch towards, I want to put them down, or I want this, or I want that? It's like, do I remain unmoved? And that's again, oh, I'm moved, there you go. Reevaluate that, and then see, because there won't be any other qualities because of which you're moved. It's what the sutta lists, which means if I'm moved, it has to be only because I still choose a degree of sensuality, I still choose ill will, annoyance, blurting out things, I still don't restrain my speech well enough. There you go. Develop one, develop two, and there will be no more movement even when such experience comes your way. And again, if there is no more movement, there is no shift, there is no obscuring of the perspective that you have. So then you would immediately see whether that person, because sometimes somebody might even criticize you while they actually agree with you, but they didn't quite understand what you were saying, so they're kind of saying the same because they misunderstood you. But again, if you were affected by it, you're going to start arguing back without even actually, hold on, but they are saying the same, just in different words. And then you would get to recognize that and clarify the thing, and it will be for the benefit of them. So all of that, it's like, see, sometimes a person might want to try, okay, so I'll start practicing all these things. I'll start practicing not disagreeing and not doing this and not being affected by it, and not going ad hominem attacks, and I will only listen to the reason, and I'll present this. And you can be partially successful, but all of that is the symptom of the issue. The issue being you still act out of desire, you're still acting out of ill will, you're still acting out of distraction, and everything else that comes out of it. So you want to address it really, as the sutta says, you evaluate mind for those unskillful qualities. Are they still there? If you recognize them, dwell day and night on attaching unwholesome, bad value to them. So when they come up, you immediately see them, and you will not be perpetually choosing the course of action that's rooted in them.